Pablo Escobar, one of the most notorious drug lords in history, was killed on December 2, 1993, during a police operation in Medellin, Colombia. His death marked the end of a bloody and violent era in the country's history, which saw the rise of drug trafficking and the violence that came with it. After Escobar's death, his family claimed his body and organized a private funeral on December 3, 1993, in the city of Medellin. However, the Colombian government was concerned that the funeral could turn into a public spectacle that would glorify Escobar's life and legacy, so they took steps to prevent it from happening. To prevent large crowds from gathering, the government announced that the funeral would be held in a restricted area and that only family members would be allowed to attend. In addition, they imposed a curfew in the city, banning all vehicles and pedestrians from the streets during the hours of the funeral. Despite these measures, many people still tried to get close to the funeral site to pay their respects to Escobar. Some climbed to the roofs of nearby buildings to catch a glimpse of the procession, while others lined the streets outside the restricted area. The funeral procession began at around 3:30 p.m., when a hearse carrying Escobar's body left the funeral home and headed to the cemetery. The procession was led by a police escort, which was reinforced by army troops and armored vehicles. As the procession made its way through the city, the sound of explosions could be heard in the distance. These were caused by some of Escobar's followers, who were trying to create a diversion and allow his family to escape. The funeral ceremony itself was brief and private. It took place in the Jardines de Montesacro Cemetery, where Escobar's body was buried next to the graves of his family members. Only a few people were allowed to attend, including his wife, children, and a few close associates. After the funeral, the government continued to take measures to prevent any public displays of support for Escobar. They tore down his home in Medellin and took possession of his properties and assets. They also cracked down on his former associates and worked to dismantle his drug trafficking network. In conclusion, the funeral of Pablo Escobar was a private and restricted event held under tight security measures to prevent any public displays of support for the notorious drug lord. Despite these measures, many people still tried to get close to the funeral site, and the sound of explosions could be heard in the distance. Escobar's body was buried in a private ceremony, attended by only a few close associates and family members.